Well, the Buffalo Bills came out with a W in Detroit when it really was a home game. Let's talk about it on TWB.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew Chang and Justin Godwin.
Welcome in, everybody, and thanks for joining us on another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo FAMBase network. I'm going to be your host tonight, and my name is Andrew Chang. You can find me on Twitter and all the social medias by searching up Two Changs. Justin is out of town, but not to worry. We have more than a replacement, someone who I highly respect in the content creation world of Bills Mafia. It is one T. Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast and the 716. And if you've been listening to this podcast before, you know we got mad love for T and Big Mike at his shop over in, I think, Off Hurdle. So, T, how you doing? The Bills won. Just give it to me.
Listen, I'm good now. I'm not gonna lie, I was worried. I get so worried about all games, right? And then the two losses for me, I needed to exhale, and today it happened for me for a little bit. But I'm good. I didn't think the Bills were going to be 17-0 at all. So I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. And before we get into today's episode, I do want to let everyone know that this episode is sponsored by 26 Shirts. If you're Bills Mafia, you know what it is. 26 Shirts, their proceeds go to amazing charitable events and good stuff for the community. So if you haven't checked them out, go ahead and do so. But yeah, I gotta agree with you, T. Dropping 2 games in a row, one to the Jets, not ideal. One heartbreaking loss to the Vikings, and heartbreaking is just like the least, like the bottom of the tier of what I could say. Like there was a lot more that happened with that game. And then going into this game, I never really felt comfortable. Like, I know that the Browns defense is kind of suspect, but it's not suspect for the personnel that they have. It's suspect because, and I wouldn't even say it was suspect today. I would just say that the parts they're not synced up. If they were synced up, this is a pretty good defense. And I was worried that going into this game that they might get synced up. And it looked like that was the case in the first half, really. I got to tell you, I think that the Bills came out super flat. Like, really, really flat. And Josh Allen, man, you could just tell that he was thinking really hard about what he wanted to do. And then when he would go to the sideline after that first 3 and out, he just kind of sat there and just he didn't even like pick up a tablet. He had that almost energy from like the overtime loss in Houston in his second year as a professional player.
Let me ask you something. So, and I know that Ken Dorsey is in the booth, right? And I don't want to put this out there saying that maybe he need to be on the field with Josh, right? Because Josh now is of years to not have somebody talking to him on the field. But how much do maybe he miss somebody there saying to him? And I know we have his quarterback coach of the guy that came
Brady.
from. Yes. And I know he has that, right? But how much of it is a disconnect from Ken Dorsey to Josh Allen saying, this is what I'm seeing for you. This is what I need for you to change up, right? And I know Josh has been in this playbook for a minute, but as fans, as how we like maybe over analyze a lot of stuff when it comes to stuff. But, we have not seen, we have seen losses when it comes to the offense. Because this offense is a high-powered offense, but there's some hiccups right now. Yeah. And we don't even know how to react because we only have 4 wide receivers right now.
Yeah. And Tanner Gentry.
Yeah, yeah, and for us, it's like we have four wide receivers and a rookie in there.
Hmm.
So it's for us, we're just like taken aback. We're like, okay, but today was a good day.
Hmm.
I'll take that. But there's some issues that needs maybe to be talked about.
Yeah,
From
and I think what you're kind of getting at, and what the narrative going into this game, at least for me and from what I was hearing, is like, is this more Josh Allen's fault or more of a disconnect between Ken Dorsey's ability to run an offense with the playmakers that he has? Which, and no offense, like if you have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and just those two names in general, you should be able to get a pretty good offense. Now they did put up a nice stat board on there saying this is the number one offense. They are like 10th in the league in rushing and like number 3 or something in passing. So like statistically they're pretty good, but there's no doubt that there has been an offensive lull. The past like 3 games up until this game, they only scored what, 8 points, not a touchdown or something like that, or something to
Mhm.
that effect, which is flat out unacceptable considering that 2 of those were losses. So it's not like you were winning the game by a bunch of points and all you
A
had to do was just
landslide, right?
run the ball and
Right.
like it doesn't matter. Like you lost those games. And one of them
But
you were
let me
leaving
ask you a
27 to
question.
10. Like
How
unbelievable.
concerned are you? Because I think that us as Bills fans thought there will be no hiccup when it came from Brian Dable,
Oh,
from Ken Durst. How did you think there was going to be a hiccup in between those people passing the baton?
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a rookie. Well, he's a rookie coordinator. This is his first time. That was a big thing. Josh, and to be fair, Josh Allen wanted Ken Dorsey to
Mm-hmm.
be his offensive
Absolutely.
coordinator. So as much as we like to point the finger at Ken Dorsey, this is a team effort, and I'm not pointing the finger at Ken Dorsey or Josh Allen. I'm pointing it at everyone because I think, and this just feels so weird, right? We're talking about a Bills win, but there still was some disconnect right at the
Yes.
start of this game, and that's what we're really harping on. Um, but it doesn't surprise me that the team went through a little bit of a lull because he
Mm-hmm.
is a rookie, and then his quarterbacks coach is like only 2 years removed of being an offensive coordinator. So I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree because I mean, I didn't think that we were going to go 17. Like I get like people thought that Super Bowl, contenders, and I agreed, but I also thought, this team, every team is going to go through those ups and downs. Did I
Right.
think it was going to be with the Jets in Miami and the no? You know what? Back up. Did I think that it was going to be injuries? I did not
I didn't think it
because
was gonna be like this.
right. And I know team goes through injuries. And I know that the Buffalo Bills has not been injury prone. So I didn't think it was going to be hitting us this way. But also, too, we've had backups to help us through certain games, but we miss our starters.
Oh yeah.
And, so yeah, it's so tough for me because
Hmm.
some of these games that we should win because if we had our starters in,
Yeah.
this would not even
Speaking
be a contest.
speaking of starters, how about the impact of Jordan Poyer on this defense? Like,
Man,
oh my God! Like, no shade to Jaquan Johnson, but you
none.
can I cannot have you out there. Like
Nope.
you like seriously, bro. You're probably 1 million times more athletic than me, but the drop off between like Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer to
Yes.
Jaquan Johnson is like driving uh, a Maserati to
Yeah.
like a 3 times removed Toyota Corolla. Like
And not even that. The one play that he did with the tight end, David Uncle Jewel, I can never say his name.
Njoku.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That play alone, like that probably would have been a pass. That probably would have been a catch. But
Hmm.
I have to give it to Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
Much respect for you, bro. Like you are out there playing, and I don't even know what your stats going to be at the end of the season. But I have to give it to him
I
because
love him.
I love the fact that you are, listen, when it came to Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, there would never be, like, they don't even speak. They just look at each other and say,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. There's a non-communication between those two. And
Oh
you
yeah.
won't get it. You won't get it again. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hamlin, DeMar is playing lights out.
Yeah, I am actually like really surprised that the drop off isn't harder with Hamlin, and maybe that's just me being like really pessimistic, but I think I really was upset with this team after that Jets loss. Like I was really,
No, I
really
think a lot
upset.
of people are. Yeah.
Like so much so that I was gonna jump on and do this episode with Justin, but I knew I was gonna say something mad, like ignorant, and I was just like, let me just hold back and just
Yeah.
let Justin go on this because I'm like actually mad, and that's when I was just like, okay, I can't when things get me to that level of like emotion, that's when I know like okay, it's
Yeah.
really
Bad
not
guy.
like that serious. Like it's a game, and I just go like okay, but
No, I
yeah,
get you
no.
because I understand because I had to check myself that game. Like
Mhm.
I had to check my fandom
Mhm.
that game because it was just we should have never lost that game.
Oh yeah.
And then we lost the game last week. And I'm like, all right.
That
Woo.
was that was a heartbreaker. Like I was
Yeah.
genuinely like I had feelings of sadness,
Yeah.
and I was definitely sullen and more taken back than anything after the fact. I was just like, I cannot believe that we had that when we had no business of having that,
Yep.
considering we gave up that big of a lead and we had the game and we quite literally just gave it away. And that's like credit to the Vikings. They did their
No,
thing.
yeah.
But in order for that to happen, the Bills needed to kind of like fall on themselves.
Hmm.
And
For
again,
sure.
that's no shade on the Vikings.
No.
They made the plays. We didn't.
Right.
But let's get back to this game here. And first quarter touchdown. It's looking like the Browns are just gonna run and just
Hmm.
pass all over us. And I was getting kind of worried. And then the Bills kind of come out with just this lame 3-and-out. And then I think they go 3-and-out again. I can like actually go full play by play here. It is not good. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
here it is.
they went 3-and-out.
Yes, touchdown. I'll just say the whole plays right now of the first quarter. Browns touchdown. Bills punt. Uh, I'm sorry. Browns punt. Bills field goal. Browns field goal. Bills punt. Then this is where things started to change a little bit. Browns fumble recovered by Matt Milano. Bills field goal. Somehow we can't punch it in, but whatever. Then the Browns punt. Bills touchdown. End of half, or
Hmm.
or going into the second quarter. So I think anything from where I saw from that is like the lowest level of offensive output until the very, very, very end when Stephon Diggs didn't have one catch. Not
Did you
one
see? Let me
catch.
ask you a question. Did you see the interaction with
Oh
Diggs and
yeah.
Coach?
Yeah, I mean, dude, if that's how I wanted to talk to McDermott if I could go up to him, I would just be like,
What's going on? Like he's coach's sad. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
Like
would
that's
just be
that.
like, yo, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like no disrespect to the Cleveland Browns, but like, dude, this is not a good defense, and I'm like a top elite wide receiver.
And not even
Why?
that,
What is going on? Like,
they had their best cornerback out, and the rookie got hurt. So
yeah,
Josh, and I don't even know if Josh. Oh, I don't even want Josh to think like second guess himself, right? And I don't even know if that's the case between what's going on with Josh. Like he's second guessing himself. But
hmm,
today's game to me felt like Josh didn't want to pressure because everybody was saying that Josh is pressing. But if Diggs is open, you got to give it to him. Like
yeah.
there was the second string cornerback. I want to say on Josh. I mean on Diggs, unless I'm mistaken. But man, you got to give it to him.
Yeah, and I think eventually they did start going to him. But I think what the Jets kind of showed is that, hey, if you can just double or like shade a safety over on Diggs,
Yeah.
it's going to have to,
Bracket.
like, everyone else has to step up. And to this point, and like, to be honest, Gabriel Davis, I love him, but he's kind of on my list right now. He did okay in this game, 5 for 7 for like what, 60 yards, but let's not forget the last like couple of games.
He's
Like,
dropping some passes
yeah,
for sure.
I think his drop percentage for the season right now is
It's
greater than
low.
17%.
He's
Like
maybe one of the bottom tier of drops.
like
He's
that's bad.
you remember when everybody was on Dawson Knox about his drops.
Yeah,
Gabriel Davis right now might be
twice as
that.
bad. He might be
Yeah,
twice as bad,
yeah,
honestly,
he
at
might
this
be
moment.
that guy.
Which is
Yeah,
so I wouldn't say it's uncharacteristic, but it's more uncharacteristic that it's significantly worse than the last year. That
but
it
let me
went
ask
from
you.
like okay to worse.
But let me ask you. Do you think it's pressure because of the game that he had with Kansas City, and then he had a great game against the Rams, and everybody expectations with Davis may be a little bit of the second wide receiver where maybe he's just not. I don't know if he's ready. Look, I think he's ready, but
Are you asking me if I think he's a number 2 wide receiver?
yeah,
Okay. Hot question coming out from the 716. I would say he has shown flashes, like lots of flashes in his first 2 years. And this year, I would say we haven't seen as many of those flashes. So, and this is his first year being a full number 2 wide receiver. Now, that being said, I want Odell Beckham Jr. And I understand that he said I'm down to the Cowboys and the Giants. But if I saw anything from this first half offense or just this offense in general and how it felt like it was kind of sluggish, we were struggling to get answers on offense outside of Stephon Diggs. And you saw that because when they covered him, the Bills, right off the bat, punt, field goal, punt, field goal, like, and then finally a touchdown at right before the half. I think that Gabriel Davis can be a number 2, but when it comes down to it right now, and I'm talking about right now in this
mm-hmm,
little vacuum,
mm-hmm.
he's not stepping up to the plate. Dawson Knox is not stepping up to plate. Now, today he stepped up to the plate. I think he did
Right,
fantastic.
right,
But and McKenzie not really stepping up to the plate. Shakir, where are you? Running backs
right.
not named Devin Singletary, and again, Cook did pretty good today too. But before
No,
that,
yeah.
these weapons weren't doing anything.
We only had 4 wide receivers active on the squad,
But even
and
before then, the other
yeah,
2 games that we lost, like we had more than 4 wide receivers active, and
and they
anyone
only
not named
target
Stephon
what?
Diggs was
Right,
doing nothing.
right, and I get it. It's a high-powered offense, and
Mm-hmm.
as fans, we see what Josh can do, and we can see what Davis can do, and Diggs can do,
Mm-hmm.
and Knox can do, and like there's a lot of players out there, but also to trust factor for Josh, because where's McKinley in this whole offense? He's not there.
Yeah, I mean that you bring up a really really good point. I think McKenzie has kind of like gone nowhere, and it's so weird. He's become quiet. I don't even notice when he's out there. You know who I notice more is like the offensive lineman, and nobody watches the offensive lineman when the
No,
offense is out there. Like they watch like the
right.
quarterback. I'm more focused on the lineman as opposed to where McKenzie is, and I need him to step up. I think. Speaking of which, of the offensive line, how do you think they fared with Jadeveon Clowney and excuse me, Myles Garrett?
I'm not gonna lie. I thought that um, Miles Garrett will be more of a factor this game, and he was not so much. I mean, he sacked Josh Allen, which when he had his Halloween costume on, Josh Allen wasn't part of it, and now he is. But I think that they did all right. I mean, there was some, but you also too, Josh Allen can make that O line look great,
Hmm.
right? But I think for the most part, they did all right. They did all right.
Yeah, you mentioned Myles Garrett, and he was someone I was extremely worried about going into this game. He had, let's see, 3 tackles, 2 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. Um, I think the Bills did actually a pretty solid job. Jadeveon Clowney, he had 1 tackle, and it was his only solo tackle, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss, and another quarterback hit.
Okay.
So, I
Cool.
mean, I think they did okay with the offensive linemen. Now, there were some times I swear those stats kind of like if you don't know the stats and you're just like thinking to yourself like, what did you just say? Which I
Hmm.
understand, but
Right, right.
basically, I could have swore that those numbers were going to be higher,
Yeah, I
considering
did.
that every time that I saw Josh Allen step back and then throw, I swore Garrett was like
Hmm.
maybe like a
Right.
tenth of a second away from like wrecking this man,
Yeah.
Allen.
Yeah.
So. Oh, what do you think? But we'll talk about this real quick, and then we'll go into break. But what do you think about Jeremiah Usu-Koromora swiping at Josh Allen's arm as he was trying to go out of bounds? And you saw that Allen was visibly upset about it.
Yeah.
And I'll let you lead off here. I have my opinion on it, but I'm curious to get your take.
I think now that everybody knows that Josh Allen is hurt, and the only thing now that you can do to Josh Allen is hurt his arm. Because other than that, you seriously can't do any. Like, the people are afraid of his legs, his arm, right? And now what's missing? His arm. So what I'm
Mhm.
going to do is try to affect his arm. I didn't appreciate the fact that Josh Allen was going out of bounds and you swiped at his arm. Like, I just think that is dirty play.
Mhm.
Like, even Von Miller has said in his pressers, like, I don't, and Von, you would think Von would be a different player, and he's not. He's just dude like, hey, how's your kids? What's going on? I see that you can do this. Like, he's so positive, but there's players out there that really want to, I don't want to say hurt Josh Allen, but there's players out there that want to do some damage. So I'll just leave it at
Mhm.
that. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it was dirty, but I also don't think it was clean.
Yeah.
Right? If it's like if Josh's foot was like half an inch further over like onto the like sideline, then I would be like, oh, that's dirty. But the fact that he was still technically in play, in bounds, I get where JOK, and I'm trying to be like very level headed about this. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like if Josh Allen's arm is hurt, I'm squaring up with Jeremiah Koromora.
Right.
Will I lose? Yeah, most definitely. But I'm going down to defend 17. um, but I just don't think necessarily it was the worst thing in the world. But Jeremiah Usu Koromora, he knew what he
He
was
knew.
doing. He knew what he was doing. So no, I changed my answer. That wasn't cool. Yo, we got to meet up in Cleveland, bro. We're
Yeah,
meeting up in
man.
Cleveland.
Come
Step up.
on. You trying to take me out. Like, you
Yeah,
know, you trying to take me out.
yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna go and take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dick DeGroat, Bill's dad. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to wrap up today's episode by talking about the rest of the Bills versus Browns game. Again, you can find me on social media and this podcast by searching up the Wandering Buffalo podcast, and we are a part of the Buffalo FAMBase network. Joining me today is Tia Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast in the 716 on the Built in Buffalo network. So definitely check out what she's doing and what that network is doing because they do fantastic work. Okay, let's get into the second half of this episode. We'll wrap up kind of quick here. And man, we're not really we don't have structure to this. We're just talking, which I really really like. And one thing I do want to talk about is the Bills turnovers. There
Yeah,
were none today. There were none. Now, the
that's
Dawson
exciting.
Knox thing was kind of close, but at the same time I saw that he was down and the
Yeah, he was
refs
out.
even knew.
Yeah.
So, I think that was a big factor into the reason why the Bills won this game. And Josh Allen, you could see that he wasn't as tempted to make those risky throws, which I really appreciate considering that we needed this game more than anything. Now, I also want to say that because he wasn't willing to make those shots or take those throws, it almost felt like we got a diluted version of Josh Allen today. And I mean, I'll give you the stats on what he is or what he was doing, which isn't exciting, but he went 18 of 27 for 297 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 100 quarterback rating, averages 7.3 yards. It's not the best, it's not the prettiest, but it got the job done. And it felt like today he was more managing the game than taking it over. So how do you feel about that and the turnovers and how he played?
I think Josh needed to have a reset, right? And everybody was saying that the last game was a Josh Allen. That was 2018-19 of how he came into the league. And maybe Josh needed to just have a reset and just look at the middle of the field and look at Devin Singletary and Cook, because Cook had a great game, let's be honest. And we were looking for Cook to see what Cook can do. And actually, Cook had a great game. I'm not mad at the fact that there was a reset of Josh, because maybe Josh needed also to reset himself, because I don't want to put this out there, but Josh has a great arm. We know that, right?
Arm.
And Josh can sometimes have an arrogant arm, right? We seen a guy came out on Twitter and said Josh may have an arrogant arm, and maybe he does. And maybe it came out this week when it came out with the guy saying with Minnesota or whatever. Josh arm is not right now the arm that we've seen.
Right.
And it was okay for him to have other pieces of this offense to take over. And I wasn't mad at that. I'm glad, because in the long run, it's going to help this team.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we need that to happen.
The
offense can't be Josh Allen Josh Allen alone, right?
No. Yeah.
And another thing that I want to put out there is that Josh is still technically injured. He did tear something in his throwing elbow. So something to keep in mind. Now, he was able to suit up and play against Minnesota and obviously the Cleveland Browns. But let's not forget that this team only practiced once this week because of a record-breaking snowfall in Western New York.
That I'm in here for.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, and they literally just got out. Maybe, I don't know, on Wednesday afternoon, and they flew out on Thursday or something like that.
They flew out on Saturday.
On Saturday? That's even, see, like, it's wild. It's wild. Like,
and players were walking, like, it was a lot. So I didn't, like, I was nervous about this. I'm nervous about every game. So I knew that they didn't practice on. There was an illness going on as well. Like, there's players that were sick as well. So I knew there was illness going on, that they had to leave. They didn't know if the game was going to be in Buffalo, if it was going to be in Detroit or whatever, moved, whatever. So it was a lot going on. So I kind of knew that the Bills were going to come out flat. I knew it. Like, the first series
you didn't want them to be. Everything in your body told you they have to come out guns blazing.
Yeah, and they didn't. And I knew that they came out flat. And I was like, I get it, but Jesus, don't lose this game. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was a lot, and they're flying out right now tonight to go back to Buffalo, and then go, because they're coming back to Detroit.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving.
So it's a lot. So you're going back home to where you might either be loss of power or snowed in.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely the Bills overcame some obstacles. I'll just leave it
Yeah,
at that to
yeah.
to play this game. And eventually at the start of the second half, like field goal, touchdown, field goal,
Hmm.
field goal, field goal, end of game.
Yeah,
Amazing. Up pretty
yeah,
good. The defense let up what, two touchdowns after the half. I mean,
yeah,
still not ideal, but hey, you beat the Cleveland Browns. You did what you had to do, and you got that.
yeah.
One couple people I want to talk about real quick before we get into the player of the game and Ken Dorsey tablet player of the game um, is that I want to say Nyheim Hines looking like a steal in comparison to one Zach Moss, and that's no, that is shade towards Zach Moss. That
No,
is
yeah.
that
Give
is
it
some
to him.
shade.
Give
I'm
it to him.
sorry. I'm sorry,
Give it
brother.
to him.
Yeah, like I wanted you to be good, but like I just can't. I just can't. I can't stop
I
defending
don't
you.
care.
You're not wearing the Bills uniform no more. I got to be real with you. You weren't doing enough, and I hope you're doing better in Indianapolis. But Nyheim Hines looked legit out there,
Yeah.
especially on return. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the running back room. Speaking of running backs, you mentioned it, James Cook. I think he went over 80 yards this game. Pretty good. Devin Singletary, pretty good. But man, we got to talk about Dawson Knox. I and Let's get into players of the game real
Yeah.
quick. My player of the game, no surprise here, it's Dawson Knox.
Cool.
7 catches, 70 yards on 7 targets. Triple sevens.
I love it.
I'm not a betting man, but I'm pretty sure triple sevens is a great thing to get. So,
I love it.
yeah.
I love that.
Who do you got as your player of the game?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give it to Cook because I love the fact that we can establish the run game and
Hmm.
also establish our pass game as well. I like the whole combination, the balance of it all. And I know that the Buffalo Bills is throw first, pass first, and I get that too. But I think you need to always establish that run game. So I love the fact that Cook established that and is part of that offense. But I think that we the Buffalo Bills went and got Hines, and I don't know if Ken Dorsey know what to do with him yet. So we'll put him back there to do what he needs to do in the kickoffs and the punt return to figure out what he needs to do. But that dude is freaking fast
Oh my
as
god.
hell,
And he just jumps and like,
right?
yeah, I'm just like,
He's
damn.
fast,
Dude, my hip would fall out of place if I tried doing
right?
half that stuff.
I say, but once they establish what they need from this guy, it's gonna be explosive.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you can put this guy as a wide receiver. Like it's gonna
Hmm.
be like the one play that they had nobody in the backfield and they had wide receivers like it insane.
Spread them
Like
out, yeah.
yeah, it's whew, yeah,
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 I would agree. He's definitely gaining confidence in this offense, and I'm about it because every one of my friends around me are saying like, "Oh, James Cook sucks. James Cook sucks." I'm just like, guys,
he
he's a
does not.
rookie. He's a
He
rookie.
does
Just
not.
give him time. Give
Yeah.
him time. You know how you get everyone gave Tyler Bass time? Give him time.
Yes.
Just be
Yeah.
patient. Be patient.
He's not a year in. You have to give him time.
Yeah.
James Cook looked good out there today.
Yeah. You know who else looked good? And before we get to the Ken Dorsey tablet player of the game for the player that makes you want to smash tablet, um, we Daquan Jones, man, he looked good out there. I mean, he's like an unsung hero. Had that blocked
Yes.
field goal, but the
Yep.
reason why Nick Chubb rushed for what he rushed for here, he had 14 carries for 19 yards. That's a big and Tremaine Edmonds is out during this game. That number probably comes down a little bit more. Now, I can't say that with 100% confidence, but I really do think it goes down if we have Tremaine Edmonds in.
Hmm.
I think that this team has an unsung hero in Daquan Jones, worth every penny. But it sounds like your player of the game is James Cook and mine is Dawson Knox.
Yes.
But got to give credit to those other folks here real quick. Now, Ken Dorsey Tablet Player of the Game Award for the player that wants you to smash a tablet. Like, an angry Ken Dorsey. And for me, that's got to be Dane Jackson. This man
Oh, we got
got
the same one.
cooked. Oh my God, he got worked out there today. And that's nothing like bad to say I'm against Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper is a really good wide receiver. But like, God damn, like,
Yeah.
he got worked out there. And Teron Johnson did let up the first touchdown against Amari Cooper, but he's a slot corner, not our number one corner
But it could
at
have
this
been,
time.
but you know what? It could have been both of them, to be quite honest. But again, Dane Jackson got his. And normally, bend don't break, but today was a lot.
Would
It
you
was a
agree
lot.
would you say he's your Ken Dorsey
Yeah.
type of player? Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, let us know if you agree with us, disagree with us on player of the game or Ken Dorsey tab player of the game. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this episode today. And I just got to say that I'm very happy that the Buffalo Bills are 7-3. We're moving on to next week, a date with the Detroit Lions back in Detroit. So it's a good thing we settled up on the visitor sideline. So good on Sean McDermott. But T.
You know
Yes.
who lost today?
The Jets. Yes, they did. They definitely did. That was a crazy game, but I mean, very boring, but whatever. In any event, T, where can the people find you? And again, thanks for joining this podcast.
Yes. Listen, I love you guys. You already know I love you guys. I will come on here always when you invite me. I'm on the Build It Buffalo Network. Me and Mike, we go Thursdays. We're live at 2:00. It drops on a podcast on Saturday. I love these guys. These are my dudes. I love these guys. If I didn't say this, I love you guys. But
Hey.
yes. Thank you guys for
we
having me.
appreciate you so much, and I anytime I can get you on this pod, I'm about it. So
Yes.
You can find our podcast, the Wandering Buffalo Podcast, on all social media platforms and even on YouTube by searching up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast. I am your host, Two Changs. That's where you can find me on social media as well. Thanks for listening. Stick around for next week's episode if you can. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. But other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.